And hello again, everyone. Welcome to 7 Days to Sunday, sponsored by FanDuel, as we recap the Buffalo Bills' big second half and the win over the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday, and look ahead to the matchup against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm Zig Fracassi, of course, Western New York native, SiriusXM NFL radio on the weekends and SiriusXM sports updates during the week. As I'm welcoming, of course, Tulsa Football Hall of Famer, former Bills standout offensive lineman, and I don't think he's a yinzer, my guy, Mr.
No.
Jerry Ostrowski. What's going on tonight, my friend?
No. I'm a yawn. That's what they say. That's what they say in Philly. It's yawns. So
okay.
Or Johns, I guess it would be the pronunciation, proper pronunciation. But yeah, not a yinzer by no means. But no, I'm doing good, Zig. A little rough last week, as we talked about. A little under the weather, but I've made a comeback, nice, like the Bills did. Obviously down 7-3 at halftime. Bills come out and just dominant on the ground. I guess you could say the game, and I'm sure you saw it. It was ugly but dominant. An old school game driven by the running game and good run defense. Bills rushed for 249 yards, held the ball for just under 42 minutes. And again, the most rushing yards any opponent's ever had down there in that stadium against the Steelers since 1975. And obviously they were in Three Rivers back then, but just in a really good performance, what they needed to do in the situation they were in.
Well, you realize who the opponent was in 75 at Three Rivers, right? The very same Buffalo Bills.
Is that right?
OJ ran for over 200. I think Jim Braxton had 80+, and a couple of others got in there. I think they ran for over 300 as a team. The Bills won that. I remember that. I was 10 years old. I remember watching that game, and that was the vaunted steel curtain defense, too, with Green and those big linemen, of course, Lambert and Ham, and that vaunted Mel Blount, that defense. So very, very rare. And again, they just ran through them at Acrisure Stadium. And it's just amazing, Jerry, how literally within maybe less than 5 minutes of game time that, the Bills dominated the first half, yet had only 3 points to show for it. But then obviously, the first play there in the second half, Rodgers gets sacked. Bosa causes the sack, bent for the scoop and score. Then they get the ball back. Couple plays later, an interception. That gets cashed into a touchdown. So within a matter of, a few minutes, 14 unanswered points. Bills never looked back from that point.
I'm sure you feel the same way I do, growing up in Pennsylvania and seeing a ton of the Steelers since I was a young kid. And then playing against the Steelers and knowing what they're all about.
Right.
I just feel bad for the Pittsburgh fans. It's like the Steelers have completely lost their identity of who they always have been throughout the years, which is a tough, hard-nosed defense that stops the run, rushes the passer, and then a team that always, whether it be Franco Harris, whether it be Rocky Blyer, whether it be the Bus, whether it be whoever, ran the football and dominated the ground. And they stopped the run, ran the ball, played tough physical football, and just a shell of what they used to be. And that was what was so surprising to me about this weekend. James Cook, 32 carries for 155 yards. Tremendous game for him. Ray Davis comes in with 9 for 62. We talked about the 51 rushes for 249 yards, but the part of it that was really amazing to me, and I know I'm not exactly to the yard, but I'm close. The Bills had 131, I believe, yards before they were even touched.
Yeah.
Before contact. James Cook had 60-some yards before contact. And that's just amazing to me that they were able to do that against that Pittsburgh team that prides itself, like I said, in stopping the run, with a backup left tackle and a right tackle who's really the predominant swing man inside at center guard that hadn't played tackle since college. And both of those guys did a great job in the run game, and Bills were able to pull it out.
And that was one of your bullet points when you and I were chatting a little bit before the show here that you wanted to talk about, because obviously with Deion Dawkins, who I believe, Jerry, might still be in concussion protocol
Right.
as we talk here, and Spencer Brown both missed this game. So hence your starting tackles are out, and you're thinking with Cam Hayward and the push Pittsburgh would normally get up front, that could be problematic. Not only did those two guys hold their own, but I thought pretty much controlled things. So job well done by, Brady with the offense and the line coach and everything like that, getting them schematically ready to play this game.
We talked about it last night on Off Tackle with John Finishaw. I was on there with him last night. We were talking about this topic last night. And, I think the thing that Cromer did was they kept it simple. They didn't get crazy in their schemes. They kept their sets simple. They changed the way the handoffs looked. They changed some of the fits by the backs on the runs, but predominantly they ran the same play, right or left, over and over and over again. It's what we used to call the old 56-57 back when I was playing with John, back with Marv Levy and Tom Bresnahan and Jim Schaffner calling the offense. You basically blocked inside. You took whoever was in your inside gap. And, the tight ends and the wide receivers did a really good job of holding the edge and setting the edge. And then James Cook was able to pick and choose where he wanted to go. And it was funny because when you look at Alec Anderson playing right tackle, that play that they ran, and they ran so well, was primarily what he's been doing for the last 2 years in the jumbo set that the Bills ran a lot with him before they got into Jackson Hawes and the 13 personnel with the extra tight ends. So really it was something that Anderson had a lot of experience with, and they just dominated. I mean, you look at the numbers. I mean, you want to talk about choking the life out of somebody. 80 plays, 26 first downs. They were 8 of 15 on third down, 42 minutes again, of time of possession. And they dominated this football game without a big passing day from Josh Allen. And it was exactly what they needed to do. They got it done, and it was really impressive.
I forgot where I read this, Jerry, but of course I like to absorb as many observations as possible. It may have been Syracuse.com or one of those sites. Anyway, they had asked James Cook about how he was able to have some success, and I want to say the quote essentially was we went right at their secondary because they were a poor tackling secondary.
Yes.
So for him to call out, the opposition like that, hey, you know what? If it's true, so be it. And you know what? Now that I think more about that statement, Pittsburgh doesn't exactly tackle that well in the last line of defense.
Well, I'll say this, and if you watch the way they blocked, they covered up everybody on the line of scrimmage and the linebackers. So if there were guys that were free to make plays, it was the secondary. But if you looked at that game and the guy that was one of the leading tacklers for Pittsburgh, I wish it was somebody else other than Joey Porter Jr. Porter's a long guy. He's physical. He was pretty good in getting James Cook on the ground. Now, most of the time it was after 5, 6, 7 yards, but still, if they had somebody else out there, it might even had more success. But yeah, you could see it in the Bills, their philosophy and how they wanted to run things. They covered up everybody inside. It wasn't like they were running a ton of double teams. That's the other thing that's wild about this. It wasn't like it was pure double team football where they had two offensive linemen moving a defensive lineman out of the way. It was step to your gap. Who showed up, you took, whether you're on a D lineman or went up to the second level. And like you said, Zig, and it was a great observation, you got one-on-one with secondary guys. A lot of times they don't want to put their face in there. And obviously Pittsburgh's didn't want to do it on Sunday.
7 days to Sunday, sponsored by FanDuel, Jerry Ostrowski, Zig Fracassi. How about the tale of two receivers? We saw the reinsertion of Keon Coleman, who produced a touchdown, and the newcomer, Jerry, Brandon Cooks. He of 1,000-yard fames in years past with teams like the Saints and the Patriots and the Rams.
I don't know when you were watching that game if you felt the same way I did, but like right off the bat, they hit Brandon Cooks for a 13-yard reception, clean route, clean passes. Like, here we go. and we never saw him again.
Right. Yeah.
He never got another.
Like,
He never got
why?
another catch.
Yeah.
They just didn't need to. I mean, I
Right.
think they got into that mode where they turned the ball over twice in the first half, which stalled drives. The James Cook fumble actually set Pittsburgh up for their lone score. But it was one of those deals where I was like, okay, here we go. We're rocking and rolling. We got a guy that can win one-on-one outside. And then he went away. Now, I would expect, let's be realistic here, Zig. He was there for what, a week, maybe?
If that.
Yeah, if that. So as he gets more familiar with the way things are going, I'm sure they'll have even more and more success. But yeah, I mean, Keon, I guess you could call him our Chris Carter. All he does is catch touchdowns.
Right?
He had an opportunity to make a couple other catches that he dropped, but he did catch the touchdown on what I thought was a great play by Josh Allen, the pump fake that got the defensive player up in the air. Then he was able to sidestep him and hit Keon in the corner of the end zone. But yeah, I mean, I guess the question begs to ask where if Palmer was healthy, would Keon have dressed?
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. But he did dress. He did have the touchdown, and he did produce 6 points for the Bills.
Christian Benford, I actually had a chance to talk with him on NFL radio after the game the other day, and just talked about the fact that he was essentially responsible for 14 points because obviously he had the scoop and score on the touchdown, which he said was a rush. But then when Bosa made the play, he had faith that his guys would pick up whatever they were doing, and then he would just go for the ball. And sure enough, it went right to him, and he scored the touchdown. And then a few plays later, just he's as humble as they come. Yep. And I love hearing that. Seems like too a man of few words, but also too want to acknowledge that he was the NFLPA community MVP this past week for all the charitable works he does up in the Western New York area. So acknowledge that too. And he was pretty modest about all of that, but still, this is a guy that maybe doesn't say a whole lot, but his play speaks volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah, for all the criticism that Brandon Beane gets, I mean, that was one late round pick that he made that's been tremendous and has come up aces for the Bills, and that's Benford out of Villanova. You look at the way he plays, and he got off to a slow start. He wasn't great early, but the last 4 games or so, he's playing at that all-pro level that we'd expect him to play. And I don't know if you know this or not, basically this weekend he followed DK Metcalf all over the field.
Yes, he did.
So, and that's something that the Bills
shut him down.
Yeah, that's something the Bills usually do not do. I mean, they play their cornerbacks on their half of the field, and they live with the matchups. But this week they had Benford follow DK, which I thought was a great game plan by McDermott and Bobby Babbitt Jr. He shut him down and then was able to get not only that scoop and score, but then also picked off Mason Rudolph as well. But, that's the one thing I think when you look at this defensive performance, and again, they held Pittsburgh to 166 yards, 58 rushing on 18 attempts. Not a ton of pressure, but when they got to Rodgers, it counted, like you said, the strip sack by Bosa. But, this defense now, if the defensive line can just continue to get better at holding their gap and holding shades and not getting blown out of there.
Right.
These linebackers are playing good too now. Shaq Thompson, I think,
what a difference.
Yeah, is a huge difference. And of course, to be fair, him and Bernard are two different style of player. Bernard is more of that deep rat in the middle, cover 2, middle linebacker. Shaq Thompson's more of your true traditional middle linebacker where he's downhill making plays that way. Benford's more of a slash guy, splash behind the line of scrimmage. But, I think Buffalo being able to sit in their base package quite a bit, all the linebackers played. I mean, even Joe Andreessen had 3 tackles and got in on some plays. But when they're in base and those defensive linemen are able to keep those gaps, that gap integrity up front, it allows those linebackers to make plays because they don't have guys in their lap instantly. And you're seeing that out of, I would imagine Milano's feeling much better than he has because the last 2 games, Milano's played closer to what we know of Milano than what we've seen throughout the earlier parts of the season. So, yeah, that front 7 was great, and then that allows that defensive secondary that's really starting to come on. Trey White's kind of – I'm not saying Trey's out there going to shut anybody down, but he's starting to get his feet under him again and starting to play better football. Cole Bishop, of course, has just been a hammer all over the field, that kind of intimidating safety that I'd like to see in a defense. And then Benford playing at an all-pro level over the last 4 to 5 weeks. That gives me hope going into the Cincinnati game that they can do some things defensively to help slow down this Bengals offense, which obviously has gotten a huge boost by Joe Burrow coming back.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we all love cuisine, and I know Pittsburgh's famous for Primanti Brothers, but I don't think they have anything on the Anchor Bar.
No.
They?
Now, I was thinking if you could get a beef on weck and you could put chicken wings on the beef on weck, maybe a little bit of coleslaw, but
now
not
that, yeah.
the coleslaw made with blue cheese dressing instead of traditional coleslaw dressing.
Ooh.
Maybe you could have like a Primanti Brothers style sandwich, but
All
with
right.
that Anchor Bar flair. So as we're incredibly blessed here at the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network, and we're sponsored by the Anchor Bar, the home of the original Buffalo Wings. 17 franchises now across the country. The newest ones are in Raleigh, North Carolina, Frisco, Texas, and out in Tucson, Arizona, where our man John Fina lives. You can get wings in a multitude of sauces, jumbo wings, fresh, never frozen, beef on weck. John claims they've got an unbelievable cheeseburger. They've got pizzas, wraps, salads for the folks that are trying to, watch their weight and do those types of things. So the Anchor Bar started in 1934 by Frank and Teresa Bellissimo, invented the chicken wing in 1964, and the legend continues today, like I said, across the country. The Anchor Bar, home of the original chicken wing, and proud sponsors of the Overreaction Buffalo Sports Network. So thank you to the Anchor Bar.
Yeah, and speaking of Fina, congrats to his sons there. They're going to be playing in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, I was having a lot of fun with that. I was up at like 10:30, 11 o'clock. My son's in town, and we're watching ball, and Cal's playing, and I'm like, hold on a second. Cal might win this football game.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, they win it, knock SMU out of the ACC championship, and Duke's in. And I hit John on the text. I was like, hey, man, are you going to start selling plasma so you can get some plane tickets? Because my man Fina has traveled more air miles than I think anybody I know throughout the year following Bruno and Roman and the Duke Blue Devils. So congratulations to them. Big-time stuff. And hope they can pull it off this weekend.
Yeah, I think they had to go to like a fifth tiebreaker or whatever to determine who is going to come out with. So it'll be Duke and Virginia. And hey, I told Fina if he wound up getting to a pretty decent bowl game, hell, I may even show up. It'd be a good time indeed.
Oh, for sure. We need to look into that.
Exactly. We'll bill Joe Miller. We'll shock him with the expense report after that.
Hey, man, it's an overreaction business trip. I think that's
right.
more. I think that's more than appropriate, Zig. More than appropriate, right?
So, Joe, if you're listening,
right.
Be ready, my friend. 7 Days to Sunday continues, sponsored by FanDuel, Jerry Ostrowski and Zig Fracassi. And Jerry mentioned the Cincinnati Bengals. And don't look now, but number 9 is back. And when Joe Burrow is rocking, watch that game on Thanksgiving night against Baltimore. Him and Jamar Chase, Jerry, it's a treat to watch because you're literally watching practice in a game. Like the out routes, the everything is just so precise, so wonderful to see. Bengals had a little bit of a tough time getting going, but once they did, they wound up putting 32 on the Ravens. They forced 5 turnovers. And in that division, they may be 2 games out, but geez, don't sleep on Cincinnati Sunday if you're the Bills.
They're 4-8. If they win out, they probably win the AFC North, and they probably do go to the playoffs. I mean, that's what you're looking at right now with the Bengals. And we know throughout the recent history of this franchise, they've started slow, and they found ways to get it done and get into the playoffs. And a healthy Burrow is somebody that nobody wants to go up against. And obviously, he's still not quite back to where he needs to be. He's got that shoe that's got the big orthotic in it that's real stiff. If you watch Burrow, when he comes off the sideline, he takes the shoe off between every series.
Yes.
And puts a sneaker on. So, obviously, it doesn't feel good. But, he's coming back. Bills are 5.5-point favorites from FanDuel. The FanDuel over-under is 52.5. And that game at 1 o'clock Eastern time at Highmark Stadium. And, this is another huge game for the Bills. I mean, winning that game this weekend, I gave them a 93% chance that they would be in the playoffs, and I would expect them to be there. But this is a situation where, Buffalo's going to need to bring their A game. And again, we've got question marks with health, especially at offensive tackle. I doubt we see Spencer Brown again. we really need to see Deion Dawkins. I truly believe
Agreed.
that, because I don't know if, and I'm sure that Joe Brady's going to come out and try to do that ball control type thing again. I'm not sure with the ability of the Bengals to score, and sometimes score quickly, if we're going to be able to just sit in that all game long and have success. Now, we might. I mean, if you can control the ball for another 42 minutes against the Bengals, that would help. But it's just hard to believe that would happen.
And then you got T. Higgins, who missed the game Thursday night due to concussion, although I believe I saw some reports that he was back at the facility on Monday. So we'll have to see, Jerry, if he winds up clearing protocol. And if that's the case, boy, name a better 1-2 tandem of receivers in the NFL than Chase and T. Higgins.
I don't know about better, but they're pretty close right now. It'd be CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. But
True.
No, you're 100% correct, Zig. I mean, this is a team that's loaded with offensive weapons. And again, the Bills are going to have to do something this weekend that they've never done, and that's beat Joe Burrow. They're 0-2 against Burrow, and the all-time series is 17-17. But huge matchup for this Bills defense that has been slowly, especially since, I guess, probably Carolina maybe started it, and they've had some halves where they've played really good. This is, I think, the first game where they've put really, I guess Kansas City, they had two good halves, but two good halves of football against Pittsburgh. Obviously the Houston debacle, but they did play great in the second half. So they're showing signs of life. And I think a big part of that is that secondary, again, is starting to really gel and play a lot better than it has in the past.
Absolutely. And, another couple of guys I always am intrigued by, Tinsley, who he started to go a bit more because of Higgins being out on Thursday night. Yoshivas is a guy who I wonder if he'd be a top 2 receiver on some other team because he's that talented. And they've tried to run the ball a little bit more. Chase Brown, they're trying to get things going with him offensively. And on the defensive side of the ball, it's been a train wreck all year. Not sure if Trey Hendrickson's going to be able to return for them. But within the last couple of weeks, they only allowed 19 defensive points to New England because there was a pick 6 in that game.
Yes.
And then on Thursday night, Jerry, only 14 to Lamar and the Ravens. And by the way, I don't know if he's right because something just looks amiss with Lamar Jackson and that Ravens offense. But anyway, the last couple of weeks, Cincinnati's defense, which has been porous, has actually started to turn things around a little bit under former Notre Dame defensive coordinator Al Golden.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Bengals team that does have some talent on that side of the ball, and if they can just, find a way to slow down the Bills. I mean, a big part of this is obviously Trey Hendrickson, and he has been listed recently as doubtful with that hip pelvis issue that he's had. Hasn't played since late October.
Right.
But still, they're finding other ways to get to the quarterback, finding other ways to play well, stop the run. And, since Cincinnati's one of those teams, Zig, and you know this, I mean, their offense when Burrow's healthy is elite.
Right.
And if you can just win a couple drives, you don't got to win all of them. Just win a couple drives. And it's kind of been the mode, the same modus operandi that the Bills have been in the last so many years. Just get a couple big plays. Get off the field a few times and let Josh Allen go out there and score points. So I think it'll be interesting. I mean, do I think it's going to be a low-scoring game? I don't know. I think if the Bills win this, it's going to be one of those deals where they might have to hit their 30 number, which is their Mendoza line of when they hit 30, they're pretty good. But I think you would have to expect, and it'd be silly to think that they could just shut out Cincinnati like they did the Pittsburgh Steelers this past weekend.
7 days to Sunday continues, sponsored by FanDuel. Always look forward, my friend, to the keys to this game, starting with number 1.
I mean, obviously, and it's been that way, and I'm an old lineman, man. And I always look at it through the offensive lineman's eyes, and I look at these matchups. And again, just like last week, the week before, if the Bills, their running game versus that Bengals front seven, the Buffalo's going to have to figure out a way to run the football, hopefully rip off some chunk runs again with James Cook and live in that second and short, third and short range, which allows Allen to utilize the quick passing game that Joe Brady likes to go to. Now, I will say this. Hopefully it goes back to more of that that two-back look that we saw a few times this past week with Ty Johnson and Cook in the backfield at the same time, and we do away with maybe that quick Shakir screen that we tend to like to throw quite a bit that didn't have any success this past weekend. But, it's one of those deals where if the Bills can do that, it keeps them multidimensional. It doesn't make them one-dimensional. And Cincinnati's going to try to take that running game away to force the Bills to have to try to manufacture yards and points through the passing game, which is something that the Bills have had issues with recently and probably will make it even harder if both tackles are out again this week.
Key number 2.
I think key number 2 is going to be, it's going to come down to the health of Joey Bosa. And you're going to have Joe Burrow, who's limited in his movement to begin with. He can scramble enough, but he's not a Josh Allen. He's not a Lamar Jackson. But you're looking at a Bills pass rush versus Joe Burrow and that plate in his foot and the foot injury and the turf toe that was repaired. You've got to figure out a way to create pass rush against Joe Burrow and get him off of his spot. If he sits back there and he's comfortable, he will pick the Bills apart, especially if the Bills play that spot drop zone that they tend to play quite a bit against Joe Burrow, and he just has a ton of success throwing the ball against. So if the Bills can dirty up the pocket, keep people around them, keep people at his feet, I think the Bills got a really good chance. So my second key to this game would be, Burrow versus that Bills pass rush, and is it going to be depleted with Joey Bosa having the hamstring issue at the end of the game this past week?
Yeah, and he's actually been playing through a lot. He had a club on his hand before, so here's a guy who, sometimes has been knocked for not being durable, but here he is. He's, been there as a trooper for most of the Bills games this year. And the third and final key is?
Well, it's kind of what we've seen recently, and they were able to overcome it this past week, but they aren't able to overcome it in some other games recently, and that's the turnovers and
Yes.
Josh Allen's decision-making, especially early. This is a quarterback that recently has had big interceptions early in games. The Bills have found a way to overcome them, but he can't continue to do that. And the Bills being limited in some of the things they can do offensively, they can't live that way. Right. And, you look at this Bengals team, and they historically have been good at forcing Josh Allen into mistakes and keeping him off of his A game. And especially in some of these big matchups they've had in the playoffs and the likes. So Josh's going to have to protect the ball. And I know that's a huge point of contention amongst Bills Mafia. There's a huge, push for the who cares about interceptions. He has them, he has them. Well, you know what? When you're playing really good teams, they matter. When you play against Pittsburgh, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Buffalo was a better team than Pittsburgh last week. They were, even with the injuries. They were better when they walked on the field. And the better team won and dominated like they should. But against the Bengals team that they have troubles with, you can't do it. So hopefully the Bills are able to limit those turnovers, get some turnovers themselves to set up short fields and the likes and take advantage of it. So that would be my third key to the game.
Around the AFC East, it was a sweep as the Patriots, the Dolphins, and the Jets all won. Of course, New England getting the job done in impressive style over Jackson Dart and the Giants on Monday night. Drake May, the chance of MVP, and he certainly played like an MVP, hitting digs and Mac Hollins Hollins on a regular basis, and utilizing the field like he did. They got a punt return for a touchdown. They're just a complete team. Mike Vrabel's really done a wonderful job. They go into the bye actually this week here, Jerry. Week 14, pretty late for a bye, but Vrabel's got him cooking. 10 wins in a row at 11-2.
I think the guy that's done a tremendous job for the Patriots is the general manager. And you look at the free agent signings they've made. You look at the draft picks that they've made.
Elliott Wolf, I think, right?
Yes, it is Elliott Wolf. And you look at the draft picks they've made, and they've reloaded quick. They've done what bad teams should do, right? This is a Patriots team that is taking advantage of being bad the last so many years. Right. And that's take advantage of your high first-round picks, which they've done, Drake May, Campbell, and the likes. Then you go ahead and you sign good free agents because you got cap space. Right. And then you take advantage of one of the easiest schedules in the league. This is going to come down to, if you really look at it, in a couple weeks when the Bills go to New England to play in Foxborough, if the Patriots win, they lock up the AFC East. They win it.
Yep.
So, just absolutely huge game for the Bills in a few weeks up there. Obviously, they got to take care of business this weekend. But, yeah, I think the Patriots right now probably – we did today on the radio. We did our top – we do every Tuesday we do our top 10 power rankings. I had New England number 1.
Wow.
And I'm not going to do what I did last week.
Okay.
Which was I crowned the Rams the greatest franchise in
the
history of the NFL.
Gary O jinx.
Right, exactly. I went on a 15-minute tirade about how wonderful the Rams were and how complete they were, and they go ahead and get beat by the Carolina Panthers. So I won't be doing that, but it'd be a miss if you didn't recognize how good New England's playing right now.
Yeah, who, by the way, the Bills hung 40 on in Charlotte earlier in the season. So it's just amazing how this league is week to week. Guy, both you and I like Achane, another big game for the Dolphins, 10 touchdowns on the year. They won their game. And then how about the Jets? I think Nick Folk's got to be near Social Security age, yet he blasted a 57-yard field goal into the mist and the rain. Aaron Glenn's got them playing hard. They may not be very good, but boy, the effort's certainly there for Gang Green.
Well, what they did at the trade deadline sent a message. I mean, they got rid of anybody that was a malcontent, and everybody else got the message real loud and clear that they're willing to get rid of the 2 best players on the team.
That's right.
They're willing to get rid of anybody. So you better step up and play. But what are they doing, Zig? Like, what are the Jets doing? You got the opportunity to pick in the top 3 or whatever. And they just keep winning games. Now they're down to like 7 or 8.
Now, let me ask you this, being the ex standout that you were, because, and you bring up a valid argument, because the fans and the media are going to say, why are you winning or why are you trying so hard? Because that thing you just brought up is, with that. But I can imagine you being an ex player, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about, we might be bad, but I might be thinking about trying to make this team next year or improve my stock so somebody else picks me up. So tell me that from a player's standpoint, they don't care about that.
No, they don't. I say that a bit tongue-in-cheek.
Right.
They don't care about it. But honestly, if you really think about it, knowing what they've got to get, which is they've got to figure out a way to get a quarterback, right?
Yes.
That is the number one thing that they've got to figure out, is who is the franchise quarterback going to be, whether it's a draftable guy, which honestly this year it's not a great draft for quarterbacks.
No.
And then, do they go get a free agent, which probably I would think they'll do before they draft one. But yeah, you can't lay down. This isn't the NBA, man. The NFL doesn't tank. Now there's some people that think they do, but they don't. And, those guys have pride and they want to win games as well. So you go out and play hard and win. But seriously, though, it does, if you think about it in the back of your mind, it does kind of stink that, we got an opportunity to pick pretty high, and we keep
it does make you think of it, though.
Right. We keep blowing it up. So we'll see. We'll see.
Oh, gosh. All right. So final thoughts.
Yeah, I think my outcome here, my prediction, I think the Bills win. I don't think they cover. But I do think they are over on the over-under of 52.5 by FanDuel. FanDuel's point spread is 5.5 for the Bills. I like the Bills right on the Mendoza line for the Bills, 30-24.
Yep.
They get the first victory ever against Joe Burrow as a starting quarterback of the Bengals. They win this one. Tough game. They're going to have to figure out a way to score points. I'm really thinking and hoping tomorrow when we see that injury report that Deion Dawkins is off the concussion protocol list. At least I pray that that's the case, because if he's not playing this week, maybe that 30 points would be a little bit tough, but I'm expecting him to play, and I like the Bills winning 30-24 over the Bengals.
Yeah, I would have that. I would say 30-27 would be more of where I might go. And again, Burrow, it's going to be one of those things. He's going to get his yards. He's probably going to get his touchdowns sooner or later somewhere, because the guy is simply that good. Boy, what a lineup here we got here with On the Beat. Of course, John Fina, the off tackle show, the overreaction post game, Mafia bets. Just thrilled to be part of this, my friend.
Man, we're thrilled to have you. I've talked to you about this before. I mean, we feel kind of giddy about it, man. I mean, I've always been a big radio guy, as you know. I do radio now. I used to do radio in the past. I'm in radio now. I'm still a guy that likes to pick up a paper and get black ink on my hands. You know, I like to read the paper as opposed to looking at it on my iPad or my phone. I love to listen to radio. I love to listen to the radio shows and everything. When you're on the weekends, that's what I'm listening to. I listen to Sirius XM NFL. You guys do an awesome job. It's fun to get them on every now and then and talk. But yeah, we're very blessed to have you, Zig. Believe me.
Yeah, and it's blessed to be here as well. So that's about it. I mean,
yeah, that wraps it up.
It sure does. So for Jerry Ostrowski, I'm Zig Fracassi. Again, 7 days to Sunday. It's been sponsored by FanDuel. Until then, much love and go Bills.
Go Bills.
I feel the same.